What if the person everyone believes is insane is actually telling the truth? A mysterious man appears out of nowhere with no identity, no past, and no fear. Powerful sedatives have almost no effect on him, yet he insists he isn't from Earth. Instead, he claims he traveled millions of light years from a distant planet called K-PAX, using the power of light itself. Is he simply a delusional psychiatric patient? Or could he really be an extraterrestrial hiding among us? Welcome back. Today we're diving into one of the most fascinating psychological sci-fi mysteries ever made. A film that will keep you questioning reality until the very last scene. So sit back, relax, and let's uncover the mystery of K-PAX. The story begins at a busy train station in New York City. Among the crowd, a homeless man named Howie sits on the floor, asking passers-by for spare change. While watching the people around him, he suddenly notices a strange man wearing dark sunglasses. The man stands quietly in the middle of the crowd, smiling as if he's seeing the world for the very first time. His name is Prot. Everything around him seems to capture his attention, from the people to the smallest details. Moments later, a couple robs an elderly woman, knocking her to the ground as they steal her money. Without hesitation, Prot walks over to help her and asks if she's all right. Before anyone can explain what happened, two police officers arrive and mistakenly suspect him of being involved. Howie quickly steps in, insisting that Prot had nothing to do with the robbery. Even so, the officers continue questioning everyone at the scene. Rather than arguing, Prot quietly allows himself to be taken into custody. During the ride to the station, he shows no fear. Instead, he simply looks around with quiet fascination, as though every sight is completely new to him. After spending a month under observation, he is transferred to a psychiatric hospital. There, we meet the hospital's head psychiatrist, Dr. Mark Powell. He spends his days treating patients with severe mental illnesses. One morning, he's informed that a new patient has arrived, Prot. Before meeting him, the doctor reviews his medical records and finds something astonishing. Powerful sedatives that normally affect every patient had almost no effect on Prot. The reports leave him both puzzled and eager to meet this unusual man. When they finally sit down together, Prot appears calm, polite, and remarkably intelligent. He never takes off his dark sunglasses and speaks with complete confidence. As the interview begins, Dr. Powell expects to find clear signs of mental illness. Instead, he encounters something far more difficult to explain. Prot insists that he isn't from Earth. According to him, he came from a distant planet called K-PAX and traveled here using the power of light itself. The claim sounds impossible. Yet he speaks with such logic and certainty that the doctor struggles to find any genuine signs of insanity. For the first time in his career, Dr. Powell is facing a patient he simply cannot understand. And so begins the mystery of Prot, a man who may be nothing more than a delusional patient, or someone from another world. Although it was his first day at the psychiatric hospital, Prot didn't behave like the other patients. Instead, he kept to himself, quietly reading and taking notes as if he were studying everyone around him. Before long, Howie walked over to introduce himself. Curious about the newcomer, he asked where Prot came from. Without hesitation, Prot replied that he was from a distant planet called K-PAX, a world much larger than Earth. Later that day, Dr. Mark returned home after work. His wife, Rachel, and their two children welcomed him warmly, but something was clearly on his mind. Ever since meeting Prot, he couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious patient. Even while Rachel talked about a family vacation, he barely listened, responding with little more than an absent-minded nod. Rachel quickly noticed his distraction. It was clear that the strange new patient had taken over the doctor's thoughts, leaving little room for his own family. The next morning, Dr. Mark returned to the hospital and gathered his team to discuss Prot's unusual case. They reviewed recordings of his previous interviews. Everything he said sounded strange, yet none of the doctors could find any clear signs of mental illness. His thoughts were well organized, his speech was clear, and his answers were surprisingly logical. Even after a long discussion, no one could reach a conclusion. Unable to explain his condition, Dr. Mark decided to delay the diagnosis and continue observing him before making a final judgment. Later that day, the doctor invited Prot in for another private session. While they talked, Prot picked up a piece of fruit and ate it, skin and all. With a smile, he remarked that Earth's agriculture was impressive, saying even the peel tasted good. The doctor then asked about his home planet once again. Prot explained that he came from a world called K-PAX. According to him, its people lived much like humans on Earth. They had families and children, but they didn't believe in traditional marriage. Relationships were far more open and unrestricted. As he spoke, something suddenly crossed his mind. He quickly pulled out a notebook and wrote it down, unwilling to let the thought slip away. After the interview, Prot joined the other patients in the common area. Even though he had only been there for a few days, he had already memorized everyone's names. He greeted each patient by name and spoke to them so naturally that it felt as if they had known each other for years. Not long afterward, a disturbance broke out inside the ward. An elderly patient named Doris refused to leave her room. Every time the staff asked her to come outside, she became agitated and even threw food at them. No one could calm her down. Seeing the commotion, Prot walked over to speak with her himself. To everyone's surprise, the moment he started talking, Doris's attitude changed completely. Her anger disappeared, and she responded with a calm, gentle voice. The two chatted peacefully as if they had known each other for years. The staff watched in disbelief. Meanwhile, Dr. Mark remained troubled by Prot's case. Despite several interviews and countless discussions with his colleagues, he still couldn't find any convincing evidence of a mental disorder. Looking for answers, he consulted one of the hospital's specialists and reviewed Prot's recorded interviews once again. After listening carefully, the specialist pointed out that many of Prot's explanations sounded surprisingly scientific and internally consistent. He also noticed another unusual detail. According to Prot, he always wore dark sunglasses because his eyes couldn't tolerate the brightness of Earth's sunlight. That immediately caught the doctor's attention. He began to wonder whether Prot was telling the truth or simply creating an incredibly convincing story. Determined to find the answer, Dr. Mark asked Joyce to prepare a completely dark room. Once everything was ready, he instructed the staff to bring Prot in for another interview. Once the dark room was ready, Prot was brought in for another meeting with Dr. Mark. With no light inside, he agreed to remove his dark sunglasses. For the first time, the doctor could finally see his eyes as they spoke face to face. The conversation quickly returned to the same question. Who was Prot and where had he really come from? After being asked the same thing over and over, he seemed slightly frustrated. He simply asked why no one believed him. To him, the answer was obvious. He was from K-PAX and he had no reason to lie about it. As the discussion continued, he shared his views on religion, faith, and humanity's search for meaning. He spoke with remarkable depth, sounding less like a psychiatric patient and more like a philosopher or a wise teacher. The longer the doctor listened, the more confused he became. Nothing about Prot's behavior suggested a serious mental disorder. Instead, he appeared intelligent, thoughtful, and fully aware of everything around him. After the interview, Dr. Mark sat alone, replaying the conversation in his mind. If Prot truly suffered from a mental illness, what kind of experience could have shaped someone like him? What hidden trauma could explain such extraordinary beliefs? Those questions stayed with him for days. A few days later, he attended a family gathering with his wife, Rachel, his sister Abby, and Abby's husband, Dr. Stephen. Even surrounded by family, his thoughts never drifted far from Prot. He barely paid attention to the conversations around him until Rachel called his name, bringing him back to reality. During dinner, the conversation turned to Michael, his son from a previous marriage. The family suggested inviting him to future gatherings, but the subject clearly made Dr. Mark uncomfortable. Their relationship seemed distant and strained. Before long, they were discussing Prot again. Knowing that Dr. Stephen had a strong background in science and physics, Mark asked for his opinion. After hearing the story, Stephen suggested a simple test. He proposed asking Prot to write down scientific formulas, astronomical calculations, or other physics-related concepts. If his knowledge was genuine, experts could analyze the information and verify it. The idea immediately gave Dr. Mark new hope. For the first time in days, he felt he might finally have a practical way to test Prot's extraordinary claims and uncover the truth behind the mystery. The next morning, Dr. Mark rushed to the psychiatric hospital after hearing that something unusual had happened. When he arrived, the staff told him that Howie had been sitting by a window for hours and refused to move. The doctor walked over and asked what he was waiting for. Howie replied that Prot had told him to wait for the blue bird of happiness, and he planned to stay there until it appeared. The answer immediately concerned Dr. Mark. He began to wonder if Prot was having too much influence over the other patients. Looking outside, he spotted Prot talking with another patient named Ernie. He went downstairs at once to speak with him. The doctor questioned him about giving the patients unrealistic hope and filling their heads with strange ideas. Prot didn't argue. Instead, he quietly explained that people need hope to keep moving forward in life. For a moment, Dr. Mark had no response. Deep down, he couldn't deny that those words made sense. Later, Prot handed him a sheet of paper covered with strange equations and calculations. He claimed they described the method of interstellar travel used on K-PAX. Seeing how detailed the formulas were, Dr. Mark decided to send them to Dr. Stephen for scientific analysis. A few days later, Dr. Stephen contacted Dr. Mark about the equations Prot had written down. According to Stephen, the formulas accurately described the orbital path and location of a planet that matched Prot's claims. Although he couldn't confirm that K-PAX truly existed, he admitted the calculations were scientifically sound. He also suggested asking space experts to examine them more closely. The news left Dr. Mark even more confused. At first, he believed Prot was simply another psychiatric patient. But now, even scientists couldn't easily dismiss his claims. That evening, the doctor listened to recordings of Prot's interviews once again, hoping to find some sign of mental illness. As he listened, piano music drifted in from another room. Rachel was teaching their daughter to play. Instead of joining them, he quietly closed the door and returned to his investigation. His growing obsession didn't go unnoticed. Rachel could see him becoming more distant with each passing day. After hours of thinking, Dr. Mark came up with a new plan. He decided to take Prot to a space research center and let experts evaluate his claims in person. The next day they arrived at the facility. During the trip, Prot quietly observed everything around him with the curiosity of someone seeing the world for the first time. There they met Dr. Stephen and several leading astrophysicists. Despite standing before some of the world's top experts, Prot showed no sign of nervousness. They asked him to identify the location of K-PAX. Without hesitation, he walked to a display board and began drawing star paths, planetary routes, and precise coordinates. Dr. Mark was certain this would finally expose him as a fraud. Instead, the exact opposite happened. When the scientists entered the coordinates into their system, they found that they pointed to a real region in space. The room fell silent. Unable to hide their shock, the experts asked how he knew such information. Prot simply answered, "It's nothing unusual. Children on K-PAX know these things, just as children on Earth know that Earth orbits the Sun." No one had a response. As for Dr. Mark, he found himself even farther from the truth. Unable to prove that Prot was mentally ill, he could only take him back to the hospital, while the mystery surrounding him grew deeper than ever. The next day, life at the psychiatric hospital continued as usual. Some patients played chess, others chatted together, while Harvey remained by the window, patiently waiting for the blue bird of happiness that Prot had told him about. Suddenly, Harvey jumped to his feet. Pointing outside the window, he shouted, "The blue bird of happiness! The blue bird of happiness!" His excitement quickly spread through the ward. Patients rushed to the window, and whether they actually saw the bird or not, they all seemed filled with hope. The commotion drew nurses, security guards, and doctors from every direction. When Dr. Mark arrived, he was surprised to find that a single blue bird had somehow brought joy to the entire ward. Even Doris, who rarely left her room, had come outside just to see it. Looking around, the doctor noticed something he hadn't seen in a long time: genuine smiles on the faces of his patients. Then he caught sight of Prot quietly whispering something into Harvey's ear, making him wonder what the mysterious patient was really trying to do. Later that evening, a patient named Bess approached Prot on her own. Since arriving at the hospital, she had barely spoken to anyone. But somehow, his presence gave her the courage to open up again. The following morning, Prot was playing chess with Annie when another patient, Sal, called him over. Sal admitted that he had spent more than 10 years in the hospital and desperately wanted to leave. Prot gave him hope, saying that one day he might even travel to K-PAX with him. Before long, the idea spread throughout the hospital. More and more patients began saying they wanted to go to K-PAX as well. Even Doris later told Dr. Mark that she hoped to go. The doctor couldn't ignore what was happening. He worried that if those hopes turned out to be false, the disappointment would only make the patients suffer even more. So he asked Prot a direct question. "When are you returning to K-PAX?" Prot answered without hesitation. He said that on July 27th at exactly 5:51 a.m., a beam of light would arrive and take him back to his home planet. Instead of clearing things up, the answer only deepened the mystery. Dr. Mark threw himself into studying astronomy and planetary motion, hoping to understand whether Prot's claim could possibly be true. His obsession soon began affecting his relationship with his wife and children. Eventually he came up with a new plan. He decided to invite Prot to his family's July 4th gathering, hoping to see how he would behave outside the hospital. On July 4th, Dr. Mark invited Prot to a family gathering, hoping to see how he would behave outside the hospital. Rachel prepared a warm celebration with plenty of food, games, and activities for the children. Before the guests arrived, Mark quietly reminded his kids not to make fun of Prot's unusual behavior. Soon, Prot arrived with Joyce, Dr. Betty, and several members of the hospital staff. As he stepped out of the car, he greeted Rachel with a friendly handshake. Almost at once, his attention shifted to the family's dog, a dog that normally disliked strangers. Instead of keeping his distance, Prot knelt down and began playing with it. Then he told Dr. Mark that the dog's favorite toy had been hidden and that it couldn't hear well through its left ear. Everyone was stunned because both details were true. Later, Prot spent time with the children before joining the family for dinner. He showed little interest in meat and preferred eating fruits and vegetables instead. After dinner, he wandered through the house looking at the family photographs. Eventually, he stopped in front of a picture of Michael, Dr. Mark's son from his previous marriage. When he realized Michael hadn't been invited, he gently encouraged Mark to repair his relationship with his son. While they were talking, Mark's daughter, Natalie, ran over and pulled Prot away to play with her. Everything seemed perfectly normal, until someone turned on the garden sprinkler. The moment Prot saw the water, his expression changed completely. He grabbed Natalie and desperately tried to pull her away, warning her to stay away from it. Everyone panicked and rushed over to separate them. But Dr. Mark noticed something unusual. Prot didn't seem afraid of Natalie. He seemed terrified of the water itself. As soon as the sprinkler was turned off, he returned to normal. The following day, Mark discussed the incident with his team. Claudia believed Prot could be dangerous and argued that he should never be taken outside the hospital again. The doctor disagreed. He believed Prot had never intended to hurt Natalie. Instead, he seemed to be protecting her from something only he could see. Later, Mark went looking for him at the hospital, only to discover that Prot had disappeared. The other patients casually claimed that he had traveled north and would return in 3 days. Naturally, Mark didn't believe them. He and the staff searched everywhere but found no sign of him. Then, 3 days later, just as he was beginning to lose hope, he looked up and saw Prot calmly sitting in a tree as if nothing had happened. When asked where he had been, Prot gave no clear answer. He simply showed no interest in explaining himself. After witnessing one strange event after another, Dr. Mark finally made a decision. He would use hypnosis to uncover the truth hidden deep inside Prot's mind. Without the slightest resistance, Prot agreed and quietly walked into the hypnosis room with him. After deciding to use hypnosis, Dr. Mark tried to uncover Prot's past. During the session, Prot spoke about a friend who wasn't allowed to leave home because of his father. He also mentioned a place that seemed important. As he recalled the memory, he became visibly anxious and uncomfortable. Believing the location might be a clue, Dr. Mark asked Joyce to investigate and see if it could be traced somewhere in New York, even though the information was extremely limited. Back at the hospital, the patients were busy discussing who should be chosen to travel to K-PAX with Prot. Harvey came up with an unusual idea. He suggested that everyone write a resume and a cover letter just like applying for a job so Prot could decide who deserved to go. Meanwhile, Dr. Mark continued questioning him about the mysterious friend and the location he had mentioned. Instead of finding answers, every conversation only raised more questions. The doctor began to suspect that the story about the friend might be hiding a much deeper truth. A few days later, Annie, one of the patients, experienced an emotional breakthrough. She began expressing her feelings and speaking more openly than before. Although she was still struggling with her illness, the improvement encouraged Dr. Mark. What impressed him most was that these changes didn't seem to come from medication alone. Instead, they appeared to come from Prot's influence. His kindness, his hope, and his belief in others were helping the patients regain their confidence and find a new sense of purpose. Sometime later, Dr. Mark met with Harvey once again. Harvey told him that he truly believed in Prot and felt he was almost cured. According to him, Prot had given him several assignments, and only one final task remained before his recovery would be complete. Hearing this, the doctor became even more intrigued by Prot's influence over the patients. With July 27th drawing closer, he decided to hypnotize Prot one more time, hoping to finally uncover the truth. During the session, Prot spoke about a friend who had suffered deeply and no longer wanted to live. As he described the story, his emotions overwhelmed him. He began to cry, his body trembled, and he desperately begged Dr. Mark to help his friend. At that moment, something finally clicked. The doctor began to suspect that this mysterious friend wasn't someone else. It was Prot himself. After the session ended, a pencil slipped from Prot's pocket. Dr. Mark noticed the manufacturer's name and traced it to Kew Gardens, New York. That small clue led him to a tragic case from 1996. A woman and her daughter had been murdered. The husband, Robert Porter, had later attempted to take his own life by jumping into the water. As the pieces slowly fell into place, the doctor formed a new theory. Maybe Prot wasn't an alien from K-PAX after all. Maybe he was Robert Porter. Perhaps the unbearable trauma and overwhelming guilt had shattered his mind, causing him to create a new identity, Prot, to escape the pain. Determined to uncover the whole truth, Dr. Mark traveled to New Mexico to investigate Robert Porter's past and find out what had really happened. When Dr. Mark arrived, a police officer immediately recognized the case and handed him the investigation files. The officer then took him to the house where the tragedy had happened. Inside, he walked him through the crime scene, explaining what had taken place in each room. As he listened, Mark couldn't help imagining the pain Robert must have endured. In the backyard, he noticed an old broken swing. It instantly reminded him of the day Prot had played with Natalie. For a moment, he imagined Robert pushing his own daughter on that very swing years earlier. Nearby stood an old sprinkler. Seeing it, the doctor finally began to understand why Prot had reacted so violently to running water. It might have been tied to Robert's traumatic memories. The officer then led him to a nearby cliff, where Robert was believed to have jumped in an attempt to end his life. Standing there, Mark was overcome with emotion. For the first time, he truly understood the weight of Robert's grief, guilt, and despair. After returning home, he quietly sat beside his two daughters. A single thought filled his mind. If I lost my daughters the way Robert did, how much pain would I be in? From that moment on, he treasured his family more than ever. He apologized to Rachel for neglecting both her and the children, admitting that he had become so consumed by work that he had forgotten what mattered most. A few days later, July 26th arrived. The patients organized a farewell party for Prot before the day he claimed he would return to K-PAX. Before the celebration, Dr. Mark met with him one last time. The two shared a quiet conversation and a drink together. Although he still struggled to believe Prot's extraordinary story, Mark sincerely wished him a safe journey. Finally, he showed Prot a photograph of Robert Porter. After looking at it, Prot simply said, "That is Robert Porter." Mark replied, "Yes, and that man is you." But Prot calmly shook his head. "I am not Robert. I am Prot." Mark tried once more to convince him to face reality. Then Prot gave an answer that left him speechless. "It is possible that I am that man. But it is also possible that I really am from K-PAX." Later, Prot joined the farewell party with the other patients. Each of them had written an application and a personal statement, hoping to be chosen to travel to K-PAX. The atmosphere was filled with joy. For the first time in a long while, many of them were smiling with genuine hope for the future. As the evening came to an end, Howie asked one final question. "What is the last task I need to complete?" Prot smiled and answered, "Just stay here, and keep your mind open. Simply remain here and be open to whatever may happen." Those words became one of his final lessons before July 27th, the day everything was supposed to change. He went through all the applications and noticed that Bess's was at the bottom of the pile. After reading it, he smiled quietly before returning to his room to rest. Meanwhile, Dr. Mark couldn't sleep. July 27th had finally arrived, the day Prot claimed he would leave Earth. According to him, at exactly 5:51 a.m., a mysterious beam of light would enter his room and take him back to K-PAX. Mark refused to sleep. He wanted to witness the moment for himself. Although his colleagues urged him not to take Prot's story too seriously and encouraged him to get some rest, he remained restless. Later, Rachel brought him some food and something to drink. The two talked for a while, and before long, exhaustion finally caught up with him. At the same time, Prot sat quietly in his room waiting. A staff member remained outside, while security cameras monitored him continuously. Yet he did nothing unusual. As 5:51 a.m. drew near, Dr. Mark suddenly woke up. He glanced at the clock and immediately rushed toward Prot's room. Finding the elevator too slow, he sprinted up the stairs. On the way, he noticed a strange purple light shining across the sky. It clearly wasn't sunlight. For the first time, he couldn't help wondering, what if Prot had been telling the truth all along? The entire hospital erupted into chaos as everyone rushed to see what was happening. Then, at exactly 5:51 a.m., the mysterious light entered Prot's room. At that same moment, every security camera suddenly stopped working. 5 minutes later, Mark reached the room. He opened the door and froze. Prot was gone. After searching the room, he discovered Robert lying beneath the bed. The medical team was called immediately, and Robert was rushed away for treatment. The patients who saw him insisted that he wasn't Prot. Harvey, especially, refused to believe they were the same person. Soon afterward, the staff realized that Bess had disappeared as well. A note was found on her bed. After reading it, Harvey learned that she no longer had a home to return to and had gone to K-PAX with Prot. Everyone smiled, genuinely happy for her. Even though none of them had traveled to K-PAX themselves, they believed that Bess had. In the days that followed, many of the patients continued to show remarkable improvements after meeting Prot. Only Dr. Mark remained haunted by the mystery. And that's the incredible story of K-PAX. But the greatest mystery was never answered. Was Prot truly suffering from a mental illness? Or was he really a visitor from another world? The film never gives us a definitive answer. Instead, it leaves that choice to each viewer. Perhaps some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. Perhaps they're meant to change the way we see the world. If you enjoyed this movie recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more movie recaps. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.